Scars don't break you, they build you. The untold power of a forgiving golden heart. Welcome to Soft Girl Era, the sacred space where strong Black women unlearn survival, rediscover softness, and reclaim the joy, rest, and freedom they deserve without guilt, without apology, and without explanation. I'm your host, LeAnne Dolce, pronounced Dolce, like sweet softness whispered in French. And I'm your guide from burnout to boundaries, from doing to being, from strong to soft, and loving every second of it. Today, I had the profound honor of sitting down with Michele Brant, a woman whose life's work is rooted in helping others transform their deepest wounds into their greatest sources of strength. Michele is a fierce advocate for emotional healing, self awareness, and unconditional self love, particularly for Black women who've spent lifetimes carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders. Through her work, she's helping women everywhere understand that resilience isn't about being unbreakable. It's about rising again and again, even when you feel defeated or torn. Michele is changing lives, reshaping narratives, and reminding us all that our humanity is not our weakness, it is our power. And let me tell you, the insights Michele shared with me are nothing short of life changing. So let's dive in. Here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. Pain made me stronger than I never knew I could be. But here's the part we forget: strength doesn't mean you stop hurting, strength doesn't mean you stop feeling torn, defeated, or invisible. Strength means you rise anyway. You rise with your scars showing. You rise with your voice shaking. You rise with a forgiving golden heart that refuses to harden no matter how many times the world tries to break it. And that's exactly what Michele Brant reminded me of during our conversation. She said something that hit me right in the chest. Resilience is not about being unbreakable, but about rising again and again, even when you feel defeated or torn. Every human, especially those who face trauma, carry scars, but those scars can become the source of your greatest strength. Let me say that again for the people in the back. Your scars can become the source of your greatest strength. Not your cape, not your hustle, not your ability to keep smiling while you're drowning. Your scars, the places where you were torn open and somehow miraculously stitched yourself back together. Now, I know some of you are sitting there thinking, LeAnne, I don't feel strong. I feel exhausted. I feel like I've been running on fumes for the last decade. And sis, I hear you, because that's exactly where so many of the women in the research Michele and I discussed found themselves. Let me tell you about a study published in 2025 in Social and Personality Psychology Compass. It followed several Black women entrepreneurs who were building businesses while simultaneously trying to heal from childhood trauma and systemic adversity. These women were brilliant, driven, capable, and absolutely exhausted. They struggled with imposter syndrome, emotional burnout, and this crushing feeling of invisibility, like no matter how hard they worked, they were still unseen. Sound familiar? One woman in the study described waking up every morning feeling like she was walking into a battlefield. She was leading a team, managing clients, keeping her household together, and pretending everything was fine. But inside, she was crumbling. She felt like a fraud. Like any moment, someone would figure out she didn't belong. Like all her hard work would never be enough. Another woman talked about how she would cry in her car before going into meetings. She would sit there gripping the steering wheel, trying to pull herself together, trying to remember why she started her business in the first place. She felt defeated. She felt torn. She felt like giving up. But here's where it gets good. Through intentional self reflection, therapy, and community support, these women began to recognize and understand their emotional patterns and triggers. They stopped running from their pain and started sitting with it. They stopped pretending they were fine and started asking for help. They stopped trying to be superhuman and started embracing their humanity. And you know what happened? Their mental health improved, their businesses thrived, their resilience deepened. Several of them went on to launch wildly successful ventures, became mentors, and started advocating for mental health in the Black business community. They turned their wounds into wisdom, their defeat into a platform, their pain into power. One woman said, I spent years trying to outrun my trauma. I thought if I just worked hard enough, if I just achieved enough, if I just proved myself enough, the pain would go away. But it didn't. It followed me everywhere. It wasn't until I stopped running and started healing that I realized my trauma wasn't my enemy. It was my teacher. That right there. That's the shift. That's the transformation. That's the soft girl era. And that's the first thing Michele wants you to understand. Embracing your humanity, including your pain, emotions, and vulnerabilities, is the foundation of true power and self discipline. Recognizing and accepting your feelings allows for healing and growth, not shame or weakness. Let me be clear. This is not about toxic positivity. This is not about slapping a smile on your face and pretending everything's fine. This is about looking your pain dead in the eye and saying, you don't get to define me. You don't get to destroy me. You're going to teach me. Because here's the thing, when you deny your pain, when you shove it down and keep moving, it doesn't go away. It festers. It shows up in your relationships. It shows up in your work. It shows up in the way you talk to yourself when nobody's listening. It shows up in the way you sabotage your own success, your own joy, your own peace. Another study, this one published in the Journal of Aggression, Maltreatment, and Trauma in 2025, examined how unresolved childhood trauma can lead to cycles of self sabotage and unhealthy relationships, particularly among Black professionals. The participants in this study were stuck in destructive relational patterns. They struggled to trust themselves and others. They felt torn and unwanted, like they were constantly fighting battles they couldn't win. One participant described how she kept choosing partners who treated her the same way her father did: distant, emotionally unavailable, critical. She knew it was a pattern, she knew it was unhealthy, but she didn't know how to break it. She felt trapped. She felt like she was destined to repeat the same painful cycle over and over again. Another participant talked about how she would sabotage her own career opportunities. She would get close to a promotion, close to a big breakthrough, and then something would happen. She would miss a deadline. She would have a conflict with a colleague. She would pull back. She didn't understand why she kept doing it, but deep down, she felt unworthy. She felt like she didn't deserve success. She felt like she was an imposter. But when these individuals acknowledged their trauma, when they sought emotional repair through therapy, mentorship, and faith based support, everything shifted. They reported greater self confidence, healthier relationships, and a renewed sense of purpose. Many of them became leaders in trauma informed care and workplace wellness initiatives. One woman said, I used to think my trauma made me broken. I used to think it made me less than, but now I realize it made me more compassionate, more resilient, more aware. My trauma didn't break me, it built me. They didn't just heal themselves, they became healers, they became advocates, they became leaders, they became the change they needed to see in the world. And that's the second thing Michele wants you to know. Unconditional self love and forgiveness are radical acts of defense and transformation. Even when life or others try to define your worth, your ability to love yourself and rise with a forgiving golden heart is your greatest shield and gift to the world. Now, I know some of you are thinking, LeAnne, I don't know how to love myself unconditionally. I don't even know where to start. And I get it. Because for so many of us, especially Black women, we were taught that self love is selfish. We were taught that our worth is tied to how much we give, how much we sacrifice, how much we endure. We were taught to put everyone else first. We were taught to carry everyone else's burdens. We were taught to be strong no matter the cost. But Michelle is here to tell you that's a lie, a dangerous, soul crushing lie. Self love is not selfish. Self love is survival. Self love is the foundation of everything else. And forgiveness, especially self forgiveness, is the key that unlocks the door to your soft girl era. Let me tell you about one more study, this one featured in Harvard Business Review in 2024. It profiled Black executives who credited their resilience to a combination of faith, self discipline, and unconditional love. These leaders faced microaggressions, institutional racism, and personal losses that left them feeling emotionally and mentally torn. But they relied on spiritual practices, community accountability, and radical self forgiveness to navigate adversity. One executive described how she was passed over for a promotion she had earned. She watched as a less qualified colleague, someone who didn't have her experience, her track record, her dedication, was given the position. She felt defeated. She felt invisible. She felt like giving up. But instead of letting that defeat define her, she leaned into her faith. She leaned into her community. She leaned into self forgiveness. She forgave herself for believing the lie that she wasn't enough. She forgave herself for doubting her own worth, and she rose. Another executive talked about how he lost a loved one to violence. The grief was unbearable. The pain was suffocating. He felt torn apart. But he didn't let that pain destroy him. He let it transform him. He channeled his grief into advocacy. He channeled his pain into purpose. He started mentoring young Black professionals. He started creating spaces for healing and empowerment. He turned his deepest wound into his greatest gift. And here's the kicker: their faith driven approach didn't just help them survive, it helped them thrive. It fostered a culture of empowerment and innovation within their organizations. It inspired the next generation of Black professionals. It created ripple effects that are still being felt today. Many of them describe moments of feeling defeated, but they echoed the sentiment: for God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and self discipline. Power, love, self discipline. Not hustle, not grind, not survival mode. Power, love, self discipline. That's the soft girl era. In a nutshell, that's what Michele Brant is teaching. That's what these studies are proving. That's what your soul has been whispering to you all along. So here's what I want you to do: I want you to challenge yourself to name and honor your pain. Then use it as fuel to rise again every single time. Seek out community, therapy, or spiritual practices that help you transform your wounds into wisdom and power. Stop running from your scars. Stop hiding your humanity. Stop pretending you're unbreakable. You're not unbreakable, you're human. And that's your superpower. Because when you embrace your humanity, when you sit with your pain and let it teach you, when you love yourself unconditionally and forgive yourself radically, you become unstoppable. Not because you never fall, but because you always rise. You rise with a forgiving golden heart. You rise with power, love, and self-discipline. You rise with the knowledge that your scars are not your shame, they're your strength. And that, sis, is what the soft girl era is all about. It's about learning to be soft in a world that taught you survival. It's about releasing the cape, redefining strength, and embracing healing in real time. It's about protecting your peace as a practice and turning your pain into purpose. Michele Brand is out here doing the work, helping women like you and me understand that we don't have to choose between being strong and being soft. We can be both. We can be powerful and vulnerable. We can be resilient and tender. We can be healed and still healing. So here's my challenge to you: not tomorrow, not next week, right now. I want you to think about one wound you've been carrying, one scar you've been hiding, one piece of pain you've been running from, and I want you to name it out loud in your journal, in your prayers. Wherever feels safe, name it, honor it, thank it for teaching you. And then I want you to decide right here, right now, that you're going to let it build you, not break you, because pain made you stronger than you never knew you could be. And now it's time to let that strength set you free. Resilience is not about being unbreakable. It's about rising again and again, even when you feel defeated or torn. Embracing your humanity, including your pain, emotions, and vulnerabilities, is the foundation of true power and self discipline. And unconditional self love and forgiveness are radical acts of defense and transformation. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are not too little. You are exactly who you need to be right here, right now, scars and all. And if nobody's told you today, I'm telling you now, you are worthy. You are powerful. You are loved. Now go, rise, heal, love yourself with that forgiving golden heart, and let the world see what happens when a woman stops surviving and starts thriving.